Hey there, welcome to a Business Breakthroughs podcast. I'm Neal DiPentino. I'm president of Titan Media Works and your host for today's show, where we're going to break through the BS and get real world advice and direction from those who are and have been deep down in the trenches. Today, I'm delighted to welcome a remarkable guest, Miss Julie Rowland. Julie is a seasoned business coach and consultant specializing in leading masterminds for companies once they hit the $1 million mark. So welcome to the show, Miss Julie Rowland. Julie, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man, I got to tell you, we've had a really nice conversation offline, and you're a remarkable person. Got a lot of similarities in the things that we do, but and you're really big into the mastermind groups, and you're a franchisee for a major mastermind group. I think is what you told me. We're going to get into that in just a second. But Julie, before we do that, can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Sure. Well, thank you. As you said, my name's Julie Rowland, and I'm a business coach, but that's like the third generation of what I've done. I started my career as a high school math teacher, and everybody says I walk in a room and they still can tell I'm a teacher, which I think is a good thing when I'm a coach and consultant. And then I also owned a financial advisory company for 18 years until I finally started just finding my passion in helping business owners. So I figure that I'm the best consultant out there because I have that teaching background, which allows me to explain things to people at their level. I have a financial background. I don't want to be your CFO. I don't want to do your taxes, but I can look at a balance sheet and look for inefficiencies pretty easy. And I think that that's one of the things that set me apart. Kind of do business three different ways. I do one-to-one coaching, as most consultants do. And then I also do masterminds where I bring together 10 to 12 people or business owners that have come close to hitting that $1 million level. Because once you're there, now you're a company. You no longer should be the one that's doing the hiring, doing the mundane things, ordering the paper, going out, having those face-to-face conversations with clients, because you should only be doing what only you can do. And that level of scaling is very difficult for business owners. Small businesses, we're used to wearing every hat. When you get to that $1 million level, you can't do that and get to the 25 million. And so that's a big passion of mine. And then I also have Network in Action. It is a networking group where we're the next level of networking. We have a mini mastermind. Our meetings are just once a month for a couple hours, and we take networking to that next level. So those are the three little aspects of Julie Rowland and my company. And I'll tell you, my company name is Quadrivium. Nobody can pronounce it, so don't even try today, Neal. I don't expect you to try. But what it is in Latin, my daughter named my company. What it is in Latin is that place where four things come together perfectly, hence the quad. So I feel it's my job to bring companies' policies, procedures, systems, and control into place so they can run effectively. So hence, I'm Quadrivium Advisors.
I love that. Thank you for not making me say that.
Yeah.
I know if I practiced long enough, I would be okay with it. But no, it's a great name. I love the meaning behind it, the whole 9 yards. And what's really kind of interesting is you're not the first person I've had on my show who started in education and then kind of moved into coaching or maybe moved into consulting, started masterminds, that type of thing. And I think you're right. You're able to maybe communicate a little bit differently than the average business person or, somebody who's been in the business world for a really long time, because we start, we think a certain way once we're in business for a super long time. And we talk the inside jargon, we use the acronyms, and a lot of times we just throw people off with all that. But I like your approach. I like that a lot.
I have spoken at many conferences, and I'll be sitting in the background and I'll hear the speaker in front of me, and they are talking at a level that they feel makes them, sound intelligent or look like and the people just glass over. And I think that's a lot about being a teacher. You have to read your audience. You have to know how to speak to who is ever sitting there. And I talk differently to different clients, versus other clients. So it is that. And I think, teaching sets you up for a lot of different avenues.
Absolutely. And so you're right. I think reading your audience is really a super important thing. I mean, and that goes with pretty much with anything in business, maybe even sales, especially in sales for me. I've been in sales and marketing pretty much my entire life. And I realized early on that, whoever I'm, communicating with, they're all different. And so I have to kind of adjust the way that I speak to them so that they understand what I'm trying to get across them. Because if I'm just speaking in the same old, using the same approach every single time, then people are just going to lose the meaning behind it. So that's awesome. I really appreciate that.
Well, I do think it's very beneficial, not only in my work, but just in daily living. You have to know who you're talking to. And everybody takes in information differently. And there's all of those tests. You can do a DISC, you can do a bank, you can do all kinds of analysis to find out, what kind of communicator you are. But most importantly, you have to know who you're communicating to. Right. You have to adapt yourself to them rather than the other way around.
Right. So we were talking before we started the recording, and you've kind of, you're a coach, but you've kind of transitioned a little bit more toward the mastermind group approach, where you're able to talk with or have communication with multiple people at the same time. And I would assume your mastermind is similar to others where it's really kind of you're leading the charge and everything, but everybody's kind of working together to find solutions, solutions to common problems. Is that how you work?
Yeah, I'm not a coach in that situation. I'm a moderator, and I bring together, 12 people, because I truly believe the worst decisions you make in life are ones that you make alone. And if you think about it, decisions you make alone, you can make very quick, but they're not always, and you can help them with simple ones. But when the decisions get complex, you have to have help doing that. And most small businesses don't. They ask their brother-in-law, their neighbor, maybe their employees, their spouse, who don't have the business acumen that they need. So I find, but I don't want to give you the impression that it's just a loose environment where we all get together, they throw their problems on the table, and we leave. It's not quite that loose. There is an agenda. And I have to, as a moderator, I have to move through it. But I have what I call vistas. And at every meeting, we talk about everybody's vistas. It's their vital issues, it's their strengths, it's their triumphs, and their adversities. And they come together with their vistas at every meeting. And we meet 4.5 hours once a month. And part of it is so that everybody leaves that meeting with actionable things that they can do. We have helped them individually. And then I put the people through a 64-point questionnaire that helps me figure out what it is that they need. And I'll get asked all the time, what are your agendas? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who's in the room yet. Once I have my people in the room, then I can build my agendas. But no matter what the agenda is, or if we have a speaker, we always do vistas. I guess that's just my thing. But it's most important who's in the room. And secondly, what the agenda is, because if you leave it too loose, it falls apart. And if it's a structured thing that no matter who's in the room, we're going to go through sections 1 through 12 over the next 12 months, that doesn't fit their needs. So I guess it's, again, back to being a teacher, I write my own lesson plans. Depending upon what my class is, I write my lesson plans for that. So,
well, I like that. So, a lot of times, things change. So, and you're not just talking about problems; you're talking about opportunities as well, I would imagine. Yeah. And that changes every day. So, until you actually get in the room with the people that are part of the group, you really don't. I guess maybe you're communicating with them after and before the meetings as well. But for the most part, they're bringing those problems, those opportunities to the table at each meeting, and that's where you set your agenda and you start trying to solve those problems or to enlighten that opportunity, that type of thing. Is that right?
Yes. And when they enter in the room, there's a big board, and they always put on there how they're feeling today. Because sometimes you get somebody that comes in and they've just had to fire their favorite employee because of XYZ, or they've just had the biggest sale. And so it helps the group know, how's everybody feeling today? So before we even begin, we take a pulse of the group, and that helps us, to understand what it is that that they're either struggling with or succeeding with at the moment. And that helps us, get through the meetings. They have become close friends. They become confidants because, and confidentiality is a big thing in this. And I do have them be individual or industry specific seats. We don't have, two, print shops in the group. We only have one because they're going to share some, information that they don't want to get out there. But
Sure.
it's a good, if it's run right, it's a good environment for these business owners to get them to get there to make decisions they don't want to make alone.
Right. So the one thing that they have in common, let me ask this question. I mean, now your area of expertise in being a coach is working with those people that are approaching the $1 million mark or have recently hit the $1 million mark. Is that the same kind of member that you have in your mastermind?
Yes. I think all coaches kind of find their niche. And that's kind of what mine is. I really love taking those companies, up until the point they're 700,000-800,000, they're doing everything. They are, I always joke and I said they even make popcorn at halftime. They are doing everything in the business. And you can't get to that next level if you try to do everything. You have to learn how to delegate. You have to learn what you can leave off the table. I tell them as business owners, they should only do what only they can do. When you get to that $1 million level, if somebody else can do it, we've got to figure out a way to get them to do it. And I have found that that's, as a coach, that's my sweet spot. I just seem to be able to see that in the head and help them get there. And when you put 12 or 14 people in the room that are all at that level, one of them has done everything that you have already, succeeded at or failed at. And they get a lot more from everybody else in the room than they ever get from me.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And then you're talking about how the people in the group are from different industries. So there's really not any competition amongst the group members anyway. But and maybe somebody might think like, well, a guy's in banking, or whatever. I'm just throwing this out there. He's in banking, and I have a plumbing company. How is he going to help me? But really, there's a lot of things that people from other industries a lot of tips that we can pick up from people in other industries that we might be able to use in our business, even though the industries are different.
Absolutely. And you're right. A lot of them will come in with that mentality, like, what in the world do I have in common with them? And it's not as much that business is just business, but there's a huge part of business, running a business, that it's not industry specific. There are certain skills and certain things you must do to reach that next level. And those are universal across the industries. So, and then I always make accountability partners. And I remember one time I made an attorney, and you mentioned a plumber in my group. They were their accountability partners, and they became the best out of all of the masterminds and groups that I've done over my way too many years that I want to mention. They became the best support and the best accountability for each other. And you would have never thought it, but it works, and it's also one of the things I key in on is a business owner's vulnerability. They have to be willing to share their weaknesses. They have to be willing to be vulnerable enough to take what they've learned to help someone else. I say, if you want to shake somebody's hand, you got to put your hand out first.
Right.
You can't just come in there and think everybody's going to help you. You have to have that. So, I spend a lot of time really picking who's in my groups, and it takes, it's not a quick process. Like I have a group starting April 9th that I'm in the process right now of interviewing who's going to be in that group. And as you know, sometimes you just get the joiners. They have that fear of missing out. So they want to join everything that they hear. It's not a good member, Right. They may pay my fee, but they're not a good member. So.
Well, let me ask you this. How challenging is it? You're dealing with business people who have hit that $1 million mark, which means they've been successful in business, and they've worked hard to get there. And a lot of times, like you said, I mean, they've done most of the heavy lifting on their own, right? And it takes a certain kind of personality to be able to hit that mark. And a lot of times, there's an ego involved with it. And so now you're asking them to be vulnerable. I mean, how does that work?
It's tough. It is tough. And it's funny that you mentioned eagles, because I always use eagles as my example, because they have fixed eye sockets. They can't see peripheral, so they can't see who's coming up behind them without looking side to side. I want owners that have that vision, that can see where they're going. They can see that animal 3.5 miles ahead that they want to get to. They just, have that, but they don't know how to get there. But it is tough. It's, there's an ego there that thinks, oh, wait, I can do it all myself, and that's a struggle. And so I just have to constantly present. And I hold little mini masterminds, a luncheon that I invite them to, so they can see how it works. And it's a lot less frightening for them, because it's a feeling of fear. What in the heck am I getting myself into? What do you mean I need help? I've done well I've hit $1 million. I know you have, but you still struggle to pay payroll every month. You still are working until 10:30 at night. You do not have a life-work balance, So it's not something where I can put a post out on the internet and have 15 people sign up for it. It's conversations that I have to have with people to figure out if they are a good fit, if this is something that's for them, because it's not for me. It's, it truly will. They will benefit from it much greater than I ever will.
So let me ask you, how has your experience as a business coach, how has that helped you to create better masterminds?
Well, it's good and bad. I'll say that. It's good from the standpoint of I've helped so many industries and so many people over the years that I have, I would be that great person on a trivia team, because I have little bits of knowledge about so many different industries and stuff. So, and coaching them one-to-one, that's helped me. But it's also a hindrance in that I am not a coach in a mastermind. I have to take a back seat. And there are times that it's like in my throat that I know the answer, but it's much better for the group if it comes from somebody else in the group. So I have to, curtail myself at times, because I have to make that group come together.
Right.
I have one of my groups, I said, we meet from 8:30 to 1 usually. And there's always some of them that if I don't provide a luncheon, they want to go to lunch together. They want to keep, and I figure if I built a group that have that camaraderie, I've done well, because they're going to get more from it outside again as well. So, but it's a good thing being a coach, and it's a struggle at times, because I have to just bite my lip and let the group solve those issues, because truly they have better answers than I do. Sometimes I just want to jump in,
Right, sure. And I would imagine too, you've got several different businesses there and everything. So when you're telling somebody, well, this is something that I've identified as a problem with your business, maybe the way you're operating, or maybe you can make these changes, they're going to take it one way. But when everybody in the group jumps in and says the same thing, I'm sure that speaks volumes, right?
It does. And it makes it much easier for the group to work, and like you said, it makes it much easier for the business owner to swallow it. Because sometimes, you don't want to see past the trees, because that blocks what's there. But if everybody in a group starts moving those trees aside and you see it's easier.
Well, fantastic. Can you maybe give us a couple of examples of, where in your mastermind group where, you guys have helped maybe a business with a problem and helped them find a solution, what the results might have been?
Oh, man. There's 10,000 things that run through my head.
Right.
But, I guess I'll use a landscape company that, and this was just simple things that we did, but I had a landscape company, and their issue always was, when they came together, their vital issue was that they did not start on time. Their people were always getting there late. At the end of the day, They came in and they just, parked the trucks and off they went home. And then the next day they had to clean everything up. And in my head, the first thing I'm thinking is, no, you need checklists. You need before they go home at night, this is done so that they don't have to do that in the morning, and it was biting my lip. And everybody in the group came up with the same thing. And within a very short period of time, the entire way he ran his business from in the morning and in the evening changed. And his life became so much easier. His people became responsible. All of the equipment was put on the truck that they needed for that job the next day. His crew would come in and they didn't even know what job they were on the next day until they got there and read the board. And everybody's like, no. And so when you see that come together and you see the guy's eyes open up and he's like, what the heck? Why didn't I think of that? Because you're in the weeds. You just are going from day to day to day to day. But once they move that aside and they say, you know what? Because people want to get home quick. So at the end of the day, they're going to get that truck prepared. They're going to get all those tools inventoried and they're going to make sure everything's there because they want to get home. In the morning when they're doing it, they're not excited to get to that first job. They want to have a cup of coffee, talk about things, and it's much slower. And, you only have so many hours in a day. So once we let him first talk about all of his frustrations that he doesn't say to anybody, he can't talk to his employees. Nobody else is going to tell him the truth. That's one thing about my masterminds. We give you the truth. You might not want to hear it, but everybody that you go to that loves you is going to tell you more of what you want to hear. They're worried about you, not your business. These 12 people are worried about your business. They're not as much worried about you. So that was one that made a huge, quick impact in his decision. And I always remember him. So I guess that's my first one that jumps to mind was, these guys put together and they came up with the list and the checklist and what needed to be done. And off he went, so. I
like that. I have a client, I have a marketing business as well as this. And I have a client in the service industry who, has busted through that $1 million mark. I mean, up to a $3 million a year business and everything, but they still operate the business like it's like an upstart. And we've had this conversation a zillion times. I need to get them involved with your mastermind so that you can give them this kind of advice. Or that your group can.
I'm planning to, this summer put together somehow a virtual one because now everything's we're in person. So I would like to see if I can make this happen on a virtual. Now it's a different, it's different. There's a different struggle because there is a camaraderie when you're in a room together that you don't get as much virtually. So I haven't figured through that, but if I get to that point, I'll reach out to you and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah. Let us know. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, we're getting kind of close to the end of our time together here. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with on why masterminding is so important and why they should join a mastermind group?
I get that a lot. And I guess the easiest way to think about it is when you're running your business, you are making decisions about that. And there's we help you mitigate that risk that you've made the wrong decision. They don't know until you sit in a room with a group of people that have been there. You don't know what you don't know. All you know is what you have done for the last building you up to that $1 million. I had a printer in my group once that said it took him 6 years to hit $1 million. It took him 13 years to hit 2 million because he kept doing the same thing over and over and over. There wasn't any automation. There wasn't any moving forward. There wasn't any other ideas outside of what he had in his head. And when you get a group of people together that give you different ideas, you walk away from there so energized too, to get back to love your business. When you hit $1 million, it's such a stress. You have people that you're responsible for the food that they put on the table. You have to, make sure you're doing enough so that they can pay their bills. And sometimes you just get in that mindset where we help you get back to loving your business, I guess.
I love that. That's awesome. So, Julie, if our audience would like to get in contact with you to find out more about your business, about masterminding, about business coaching, whatever the case might be, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I'm going to tell you the easiest way is just give me a call. The phone number is 513-659-5728. I hope you can put the email or my website, because if I try to say just call me or just email me at Julie@Quadrivium-Advisors.com, they won't get through the Quadrivium. So hopefully, Neal, you have some way you can put my email address up there. But in case not, it's Julie@Quadrivium-Advisors.com.
Fantastic. And that will be in the show notes, by the way, Julie. So we got you, we have you covered. Okay. Hey, listen, you've been a wonderful guest. This has been really cool information. I think that, everybody should consider some kind of mastermind group in their communities, and even the virtual mastermind, once you get that up and rolling and everything. So, and you're pretty active on LinkedIn as well. Am I right?
Yes. You can always find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I'm much more active on LinkedIn than anywhere else, but yes.
Well, fantastic. So once if the virtual comes forward, the mastermind group, then they'll be able to find out more about that then on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, they will.
Outstanding. Again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed myself.
My pleasure. Hey, that's our show for today. So thrilled you could be with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Business Breakthroughs is sponsored by Titan Media Works, providing podcast production and guest booking services for those who want to be in the podcasting space. Check us out at titanmediaworks.com. That's work spelled WORX. And check out all the other great hosts at the Small Business Delivered Network at smallbusinessdelivered.com. Hey, stay tuned for more Business Breakthroughs. Until next time, stay positive and keep breaking through. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.